And joining me live, I would like to welcome Laura Blumenfeld, who served as senior policy advisor on the U.S. State Department's Israeli-Palestinian negotiating team. Good to see you again. Our correspondent there just mentioned this clash between Hamas and others in Gaza. Diplomacy, of course, is set to continue in the days ahead. But when you look at the actual situation for Palestinians who are returning home, how concerned are you about a security breakdown in the Gaza Strip in the days to come?
Yes, the story today indeed was all about homecoming, whether it was the Israelis preparing for the hostage homecoming in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. And as you said, in Gaza, where Palestinians were streaming home all the way, all day, all the way north. But the question for both of them is this going to be a matter of celebration or just devastation? Because the future is far from certain. And number one is security, both for the Palestinians who are trying to rebuild their lives and for the Israelis who are learning how to trust again in their neighbors. So, for the moment, everybody is kind of holding their breath. Can we make it through phase one? And that's a big reason why the Americans are on the ground, whether it's the diplomats in Tel Aviv or, the CENTCOM commander Cooper of the United States has boots on the ground, his own 2 feet in Gaza, making sure that the IDF is withdrawing to where they promised to be positioned to in order for things to move forward. So it's going to take Americans and it's going to take a big coalition. There's 20 countries gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh to witness that peace agreement signing. And it's really going to be a multinational effort from the ground up.
Indeed, we do know there's about 200 U.S. troops who've arrived in Israel to monitor that ceasefire with Hamas. As you say, it's going to be difficult negotiations ahead. One of the key issues, of course, governance in Gaza. We've heard Hamas is mobilizing fighters to reassert control as Israeli forces withdraw. What do you think we will see from Hamas now?
Well, it's interesting about Hamas. Everybody asks were they defeated. Certainly militarily they were, but where does the story go from here? What is the story they'll be telling, right? They're now going to be taking credit for emptying Israel's prisons of their past and perhaps future terrorists. That's a big win. They can say that the world recognized the state of Palestine because of their assault, that they're going to take credit for that. But I think the real question about Hamas and future strength or weakness will depend on who actually has the power in Gaza at the end of the day and at the end of these months as we transition from Israeli occupation, a military occupation, to some kind of civil governance. I've been to Gaza many times for many decades, and I can tell you that I've seen what it looks like to have a Palestinian Authority in control there. I've been to their prisons where they were holding Hamas would-be suicide bombers. So it is possible to get back to that place. As Witkoff said today, standing in Hostage Square, you'd never believe that this miracle would happen, but we're all just going to have to believe in miracles. And there is just one final point, a kind of biblical quality, almost religious quality to how everybody's talking about this moment. President Trump said, "Blessed be the peacemakers," from the book of Matthew. You have Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, citing the book of Jeremiah as he talks about this operation of returning the hostages, bringing them back to their borders. And then, of course, there's Ivanka Trump, who the Israelis think of as almost a modern-day Queen Esther, a biblical figure, a Jewess in the court of a foreign king who brings salvation.
I mean, that is just a fascinating dynamic that you're explaining there. I want to pick up on something you've touched on a bit earlier, because I think it is a crucial point, that goal of eventually having Palestinians in charge in Gaza. Trump's peace plan requires the Palestinian Authority to make major reforms before it's able to take power in Gaza. What would need to happen there for that to become possible?
Well, what's fascinating about that is there's no kind of deadline or timeline for that. So what we've seen and I've seen in previous negotiations, the Palestinians would want to say, give us a date by which we can take control and assert, have our own agency over our own matters. And the Israelis will say, no, this is actually performance-based. You need to, whether it is, root out financial corruption or show that you can run kind of civil military coordination, or they create these kind of markers. And unfortunately, what that from the Palestinian point of view creates is an ever disappearing, expanding horizon, a place that they can never get to, and frustration builds. And then for sort of temporary in the transition, What you see from the Israelis, they'll say no Hamas in charge and no Abbas, which is Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. From the Palestinian side, they're saying no Brits, meaning no Tony Blair. We don't want a foreign kind of occupier. And also no Bibi, no Netanyahu. The Israelis have to get out. So again, after this kind of elation that we're going to see over the next several days comes the hard work.
Laura, thank you for setting the stage for us for the negotiations to come. We've been speaking with Laura Blumenfeld.
Thank you.
Now, it's been confirmed that